like how you guys are like white shirt, white shoes.
Well, we called each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. The podcast fit.
I'm like the reverse Hulk over here. I got the green hat and a purple shirt instead of purple pants.
Oh, I see what
The
you
reverse
did there.
Hulk.
Reverse Hulk.
How'd they not make that a supervillain yet? Like Reverse Flash.
I was going to say it's probably because they already did reverse
Because-
Flash.
Just a real skinny.
Right,
Strong
I was
man.
gonna say.
Actually, they're
Reverse Hulk is all men.
one of the
Yeah,
versions
that's
of
right.
Hulk is
It's
really
Bruce Banner.
skinny. Like skinny Hulk is already a thing.
Yeah, they have the Reverse Hulk. That's right. It's Bruce Banner. That's funny.
It's just by default.
Yeah.
There you go.
Got it. Yeah. We made it happen.
When
See,
you were-
you learn new things.
When you were children, what was your favorite superhero? Did you enjoy?
Spider-Man.
No hesitation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like since I was a kid, and I don't know. There's something very relatable about him, especially because he's young.
Okay.
And you know the whole with great power comes great responsibility thing, and I just thought it'd be like his kind of attitude where he's kind of funny, but like, and he's serious about some things, but you know it's just that whole thing when you're a kid and you're like, oh, he's a kid too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think being able to climb up walls and swing around would be really fun.
You'd enjoy that.
Especially, well, for someone who is afraid of heights.
Oh, okay.
I was like, it'd be pretty cool to be able to just, you don't have to worry about that quite so much.
Yeah, because of the spider power. Yeah.
And Superman to me, I was like, eh. Iron Man is another one. I feel like as I got older, Iron Man for me, but Spider-Man is always classic. And people will debate whether or not Iron Man is actually a superhero
Oh, sure.
because he doesn't have any superpowers. But
They do that with Batman as well?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they get all over him.
But their brains seem to be super smart.
They are very intelligent.
Like I'd say above the average bear.
Yeah, but
Very
not
wealthy.
in a super way, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like I just said super smart. I feel like that's super enough. Like
That's super enough.
super is better than average.
Super enough hero.
Would
Is
you
that
guys
what they
agree
call
with
it?
this? That super is better than average? I think so. So
Super wealthy, super smart.
super smart.
Yeah.
Super handsome, super fast, super funny.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
But is
I
it
don't
a
know if
power?
you're describing Batman.
Maybe
and
it's
all those.
maybe power is maybe super is not the holdup here. Maybe it's the word power. 'Cause
Yes.
maybe
Yeah, it's not
That
really a
is the holdup.
superpower. That's the thing that people get held up on is there's not some kind of
maybe it's brain power though. They
like
say.
external.
Use your brain power.
But there are superheroes that are super smart. Like the Flash is super smart.
yeah.
Yeah. Because he can process super quickly
fast.
also. Yeah, super fast. No, exactly. That's what it is.
That's
So
crazy.
He has a super
The
brain.
synapses in his brain are just firing
Yeah.
faster than usual.
They have
Just
to,
'cause
or
can
he would
run
absolutely
fast.
die.
Yeah, right.
You can move super fast, but your brain can't comprehend it, and then you're toast. You're
Dude,
done.
have you seen the video that Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man? He actually in that scene where the lunch in the cafeteria flies off and goes up in the air and he catches it. It is like 58 takes to actually do it. There was no CGI.
You're
There was
kidding me.
He actually did that.
Did they speed it up though?
No, like all the food goes up and he somehow does in 58.
That's
On the
crazy.
58th try, he catches like an apple, a carton of milk,
Oh man,
French toast sticks or whatever, like everything on the tray.
Wow.
that's
So
wild.
So as a kid, Spider-Man was your jam.
same.
Okay.
Spider. I don't know as I've gotten older why he's so marketable. Like nobody cares about Ant-Man. What other insects are there? There's probably plenty, but Spider-Man for some reason is so marketable.
There's lots of insects,
but
insects
not maybe
that are also
insects that
superheroes.
carry over into superheroes. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
flea is one.
The flea, the tick,
The blue
There you
beetle is one.
blue beetle. Yeah, nobody. I didn't know what blue beetle was till
Nobody
this movie
knows blue
came
beetle.
out.
I barely know who blue beetle
Isn't
is.
wasp something?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
wasp.
The
Wasp goes with
and
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
I gotta tell you, there's more
Yeah.
insects that are superheroes than I thought.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
Spider-Man. The only thing I can think of, and I loved Batman too. Technically not a superhero, but we've established.
Yeah.
He's
Earthworm
he's
Jim.
super everything else. I think it's their super villains that are so marketable. And that's why I loved Spider-Man and Batman. There's something about the Joker, Doc Ock, Green Goblin that are so you're drawn in as a kid, and
They're very interesting. A lot of
very
Spider-Mans
interesting.
they're all like animal motifs too.
the
a lot of them
Rhino.
are.
Yeah,
The Rhino, yeah.
Chameleon.
just Paul Giamatti randomly as the Amazing Spider-Man Rhino that shows up for 2 seconds. I feel like they did him dirty with that one.
They did.
And right now, as grown men,
It's never changed.
still Spider-Man.
Spider-Man and Batman.
Still for you.
Easy.
There's a lot more of them now. I don't know. I think I would probably still have to say Spider-Man, but I definitely went through a period of time where I was like, yeah, Iron Man's cool.
Yeah.
Like Iron Man. So we've been gushing over here about superheroes. What about you?
Yeah.
As a young man, like probably 7 or 8, Hulk was it. I've always been.
Hulk
That's
smash.
Ledger's by far.
I was always fascinated by muscles and strength. I don't know.
Yeah.
The story of Samson. I remember the first time I heard that in Sunday school. I was like, what? Like, you're kidding me. This guy fought a lion. And then my dad was a big guy and lifted weights. So I grew up, with him always having a weight bench around. And, he was Captain Tank Top. Not a superhero, but just a nickname I gave him.
Captain Tank Top
Captain
would be
Tank
an
Top.
interesting superhero.
Yeah. And so I enjoyed that. And then in, I believe, 1989, Tim Burton's Batman came out,
Yeah.
starring Michael Keaton.
Yeah, the Michael Keaton one.
And I was blown away.
It must be the timing too.
Yeah, some of it's, yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah.
animated series was big.
Was it?
in the
Okay.
90s?
It was.
So you were force fed it.
And then
in a way.
those Batman movies were just
Formative, man.
blockbusters.
I couldn't even take it.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for real. I'm going
I'm
to
going to be.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
be
get the
Batman.
car.
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat up bad people.
Right. Hopefully my parents survive, and I can do this without the tragic story of losing my parents.
It's always
Yeah.
there.
But I'm willing to fall into a cave. I'm willing to deal with tragedy.
Yeah.
Part I was missing more than anything was the brains, the money, the courage, and the skill.
So most of his skill set.
What I
Most of what he
possessed
has.
was the jawline for the mask.
Oh, sure.
As a young man. Not anymore. But
There's that one. You have that story about that Halloween where you
I
were
do, yeah. I've shared it, yeah, and I have the pictures of me and
gallivanting.
even
around
Rachel.
as
One time I
the
put
Kid
on.
Crusader.
We were at the Target, and they had it was Halloween, and they had part of the mask, and I put it on. Rachel's like, "You really could pull that off," and I was like, "I know." And Henry was like, "What?" So yeah, Batman, and then as a mid 40-year-old man with a failing body, I tell you, Superman seems appealing to me now. And what changed for me was a Man of Steel. We saw Henry Cavill as Superman, and we thought he did a really nice
Henry
job.
Cavill Superman is really good.
It's a really good, and that movie was really good. And so, because I was kind of like you, like I was never like, oh, Superman, kryptonite. It just seems so.
Well, yeah, he's
to me,
like
Batman was possible.
He can
in
do
some-
anything.
Some
and it's-
stupid way Batman was possible, but Superman was impossible because that's
It's
an alien.
attainable.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I did have another one. One for my older where I'm like, okay, I think I do have a different superhero. Captain America.
oh yeah, okay. Yeah,
I just
Marissa
like-
enjoys the Captain.
He's
America.
just like Marissa's. I would say that Captain America of the Avengers, Captain America is probably her favorite. She likes all the movies. She likes the history.
It's good. It's very
but
good.
like he's just very down to earth.
yeah.
Yeah, and he ends up he gets the girl in the end. He lives out his days.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm spoiling this for anybody who's hasn't watched the Marvel movies, but it's just one of those things. And I love a happy ending. I really
do
love a
too.
happy
Yeah.
ending.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah, I get very upset when we watch a movie and it doesn't end precisely how I want it to. I don't want to be disappointed, and I am quite often. And then when it's done, I'm like, what? I look at Rachel and I'm like, I've just wasted 2.5 hours of my time. Here, we just watched a movie like this recently that had a happy ending. I can't remember what it was.
Shrek.
That's what it was. That's what it was. I enjoyed that. Yeah, it was good.
The original, like the first one,
No,
there's like 8 of them now.
oh,
So.
Chad's lying. I can't remember what it was.
Shrek does have a happy
Fast
ending.
and Furious 39.
I can tell you, yeah, that was something. I saw that jazzy, and I'd like that for Sundays.
Oh,
A little jazz I could run around with.
Zach has one.
Zach does.
Only kind of. It's not motorized.
That can change.
I had people offering though on Sunday. They were like, "We get you a little diesel motor on that." I'm like, I don't think that'd be good for anybody.
People are very kind what they offer.
I would get so hurt
Very,
so
very
badly.
kind.
Somebody else would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose we should address the elephant in the room.
Yep. Wearing purple.
Right. Pastor Zach is here.
That's what they called me in high school.
Let's give it up for Pastor
The
Zach.
elephant in the
Pastor
room.
Zach.
Oh, please.
Yeah, Zach is here today. Mark is obviously out. He is not sick that I know of.
I hope he's not sick.
No, he's on vacation. He's on a bit of an extended vacation, which is a nice way of saying he's been fired.
Right. Yeah. It's no longer on the podcast.
Mark has been fired.
Oh,
No.
We're trying out our third wheel.
and I might get fired. This is we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't recall
The trial
hiring you.
run.
Yeah,
You've
I've
always
just been.
kind of been
I've
here.
just kind of been here,
Right.
and then I just started coming into the office, and nobody stopped me so far. So
No, Mark is on extended vacation with his family. He has told me so many times where he's going, and shamefully, I can't remember.
Well, I went to Great Smoky Mountains
Yeah.
first, and then to Outer Banks.
Okay, I
Which is
knew Outer
his
Banks
usual vacation.
was one of them.
I knew it was mountains. I don't remember which one.
Yeah. So he's out for the next few weeks, which I'm glad. I always suggest.
I'm glad.
No, because well, this is the thing, and I've told you guys this, and the rest of the staff. Like, if you can arrange it, take 2 or 3 weeks in a row off, because 1 week is a joy, and we should be thankful for it, all that. But you can't really unwind in a week. This is the type of job that when you punch out, you don't just punch out. You kind of carry it with you all the time, and it is a unique role. And everybody's job is hard. Not saying this job is harder than any other, but we have the opportunity and the blessing to be able to take extended time off. And so I'm glad Mark is doing that. He's I'm sure could use the break. He's been invaluable to me, as you guys are as well. But particularly over the last year, as he's had to fill in so many times with so much going on. And so, yeah, I'm hoping he gets the rest. And he certainly will be missed today. But I'm very glad that you were here. This was very last minute. We got some questions in that I thought would be.
here.
I'm definitely dressed for the occasion. I got my sandals.
Now you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Just drop kicking in front of the camera
Yes.
here.
So a couple weeks back on a Sunday, I offered to sell you as part of a package deal to the church. Father's Day was coming up. We've got this missions trip to Africa coming up this year, and we're doing a bit of a fundraiser. And so we're selling some hats.
I was gonna say you're wearing the hat.
I am. I'm wearing the official Kenya Hope Christian Church missions hat today, and we were selling these hats in these tumblers, which are beautiful. They're wonderful, and we had a deal going. You can get the hat for $30, you get the tumbler for $40. You buy both, you get it for $60. And I'm, standing in the back ramp, and I didn't see this graphic before it went up. The last I had heard in staff meeting, Edwin, who's our creative arts technical director here at Hope, said something to Zach, like, you want to model it, something like that. You available, and you agreed. And so I say this up there,
Unfortunately.
and I'm
You
looking
took
at
him
all
deep
this.
in the woods.
What's that?
Took him deep in the woods, apparently.
Were you really?
For this
We did
photo.
go. I don't know about deep, but yeah, maybe like 100 feet in.
Okay.
We're trying to find a good spot. There was this fallen tree that was like.
So it was
It's a nice
mostly
spot.
just your face then that was on the. So I'm wondering why he took you out somewhere.
Oh, that was my
was
my my choice
And then
actually.
he,
Okay.
he
He was
blurred
like-
out the background
he-
of trees.
He had talked
I was gonna
about
say I remember no
So you're
trees
in-
from that
you're in
photo.
focus.
he had talked about doing it. Well, he was like, well, we'll take the picture and he was like, well, we could just go take it outside. And I was like, I bet we could find a cool place in the woods.
Yeah,
he appeased you. Anyway, you saw
Edwin's
the
a nice
photo.
kid.
Yes.
He's like, I'll do whatever.
He'll go into the woods with you if you
Right.
ask him to.
Yeah, he's very, very kind and skilled that way. So this graphic shows up, and you are just, there's no avoiding you. You're there. You're just.
I didn't take the picture.
No,
get
I listen.
I think it was a nice picture, Edwin.
It was
You
a
did a
great
great job.
picture, and this is not a commentary on your face or Edwin's skills.
You headshot.
This is I appreciate your face. I appreciate Edwin's skills. There it was, and I'm standing on the ramp, and instantly I thought, what if I offer a deal no one can refuse?
Yeah.
In jest. And so I get up and I say to the church, can we put that graphic back up? The moment I did that, a slight rumble started in the room. They're like, oh, here he goes. He's going to do something else.
It's getting warmed up.
He's getting warmed up at someone else's expense. what he does best. And so the picture goes up, and I said, Bob, I offered you this deal. I can offer you a deal that Bob can't. And I said, 30 for the hat, 40 for the tumbler. You bundle it together, $60 for an extra $5. And then I pause. I throw in Zach. People loved it. Lots of chat.
Everyone who was in
cheering.
the audience
Enjoyed
loved
it.
Yeah.
Now, I had not given you a heads up
Nope.
for several reasons. The main one being it was improvised.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so,
Nice.
Main one being because I
main
hadn't
one
given
being-
myself a
right.
heads up.
yeah, had you been on the ramp with me, I would have said, listen, here's what we're going to go through, but we're going to walk through this together. And I shared with third service because I think it was after second service, I was in the back office.
Yes.
And I heard you come back, and I was back in my office, just sitting down and gearing up for third service. And you come in, and you and Ed were having a conversation, and you had mentioned that people.
And I didn't know he was in his office.
No,
also.
no, no,
People
no.
aren't familiar with the layout of the office. Our
Yeah.
offices are separate.
They are. We don't bunk up. I don't bunk up with the boys, and so. And good on you, because those situations are always so nerve-wracking for me a little bit, because you came back and you're talking about it, and I'm like, what if he just starts, these guys are such an idiot, and he should. And I thought I would have deserved anything you would have said at that point, and I would have said nothing except, maybe call me an idiot to my face, which I would have received. But good on you. Zach's got a great sense of humor, and he was rolling with it. But he was mentioning that people were coming up to him,
Handing him $5 bills.
well, he had no context, because he didn't know what was going on, and people are offering.
I knew I was up there.
You knew you were up
but-
there, but you didn't know that I had offered to sell
No.
you at this point. Now, I
No.
put a restriction for one day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, first service I offered you I just offered you. And then I realized, I want him back at some point. We could use his services here at the church, and so I put a stipulation on it of a day. But the fact, and this is what made me laugh, all this to say, what the funniest thing to me is he's got no frame of reference, and people are just coming up to him like, I'm going to buy you.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait,
People
what?
saying like, I want you, Zach. And I'm like, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, what that's about.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
All
our
right.
administrative pastor, Kevin, sends me he was in charge of the missions table on Sunday. And so he's sending me updates of what it looks like. And, he's got little posters here, and he had printed out a poster with Zach and the extra bundle with the 24-hour time limit on it. He said, you think I could put this up? And then, Zach normally gets here early, and then I'll take it down. And I said, let's not put it up for other people to see.
He did show it to me though.
I did. I said, I think Zach would appreciate it. Maybe put it on. I'd suggested maybe putting it on your desk. And he said, well, when I hear him come in, I'll just present it to him.
He did.
And I said, yeah. I go, Zach's got a good sense of humor like everybody does around here. I said, but I don't know what Zach's limit is with this. I go, it could probably get frustrating, especially since I sprung it on him. So let's just take
Eventually I will tire of
joke.
people desiring to buy me.
Yes.
So here was my biggest issue.
Did anyone offer to buy you this week?
No, not this week, I don't
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
I was busy this week on Sunday, but the thing that bothered me the most that Neal is not mentioning, which is very kind of him, because I'm the one that said it, because I thought it was 65 for me. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's not nothing. And then when I was having the conversation with Edwin, he was like, no, it's an extra $5. And I was like, $5? That is not cool.
That's what I'm worth.
And that's when I left $5. I was like, 65 at least, double digits, but $5.
Yeah. So you weren't pleased with the valuation.
No, I think it could have been higher.
Yeah. I got to tell you that I feel a burden in my heart that you're satisfied with 65.
It was better than 5.
I understand 65 is more than 5, but it is still 65 for a human life and 24 hours of labor. Because I assume that's what they'd use it for.
Yeah, I'm sure it was labor. I think most of the people that approached me were like, I got tons of yard work for you to do.
That's
and
what
I'm
it
like,
was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, but I know the profit margins of the tumbler and the hat, so we were still making good with your fun. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been a bundle had I charged 65. It would have been like, 65. I could probably get somebody for 50. But anyways, thank you for being a good sport. You're always a good sport. Let me welcome people to the Atrium. Welcome to the Atrium. This is a Hope Christian Church podcast. My name is Neal. I'm the lead pastor here at Hope Christian Church, and this fine gentleman is.
I'm Chad. I'm the student pastor here at Hope.
And this man.
I'm Zach. I'm the family pastor here at Hope.
And we are excited to have Zach here today. This is episode number 86. 86.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because last week's was turtles. We talked about turtles a lot.
Yeah.
And marks. I gotta tell you, sometimes, and this happens with you, and it happens with me for you guys, we find things out. We've been working together for ever.
Yeah.
Long time.
6 years.
6
yeah.
years.
You guys
Yeah,
have,
long
for
enough.
sure.
And it's not like we work not closely together. We all work very closely together.
Yeah.
And work closely with Mark, and had not. I didn't even know he turtle trapped at all.
Yeah.
But he did a little bit of turtle trapping.
Plays it close to the chest.
He does. Well, I mean,
Something about turning the camera on. The
Just brings
the
it out.
secrets, secrets spill out.
you think it'd be the opposite, but it's just
It'll
like,
be
hey,
weird.
listen, we're out here. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for being here, Zach, again.
Oh, yeah.
I
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
We know you've got a busy couple of weeks coming up. Why don't you just do a quick plug for what's coming up?
Yeah,
here
this
at
is
Hope?
probably going to be, I don't know, when do these usually get posted?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
So there'll still be time if you're listening to this and it's Thursday. Well, I mean, we'll take you even after it starts, but Vacation Bible School is coming up. It's going to be starting on June 24th through the 28th. So it's Monday through Friday next week. And this year's theme is scuba, diving into friendship with God. And we're going to be doing all sorts of games and activities. And there's going to be time where we get to experience that all together. And then there's lots of stations and where the kids will be going around to. There's going to be snacks. All kids like snacks. We're going to be, this year they're doing something a little bit different where one of the focuses of the stations is the scripture that we're talking about for that day. So I'm really excited. Group changed it a little bit. And I'm excited to see that and how much more of an impact that may have for the kids. We have, I think, almost 180 signed up now.
That's
We
great.
still have room for more. And if you'd like to volunteer, we'd love for you to volunteer as well. All of that can be found at hopechristianchurch.com on the events page. And it's going to be a great time. There's a lot to do. And we need a lot of hands. So if there's anybody who wants to be a part of that or you have kids who want to participate, it's, let's see, 3 all the way up until leaving 6th grade.
Age 3.
So
Yeah.
age 3, yeah. So it's like
right.
preschool to 6th grade. So if you're interested in that, if you want to get signed up, get signed up. There's still room. We'd love to have you. It'll be a ton of fun.
You're Maddie excited to come? Is Peter
Maddie's always excited to come.
Peter old enough this?
Peter's not old
Okay, I
enough
was
this
gonna say
year.
he's got to be getting close.
He turns 3 in December.
Okay,
So
yeah,
he'll be
so-
able to next year.
Okay.
Right. once the baby's here. Which will actually probably be a good thing.
Yes.
He's really excited about it. Every year that he's been able to come to
Marissa's
VBS.
expecting for those that don't.
Oh yeah, and I think I said this. I mean, it was on Facebook, but it's a boy. If you're not Facebook friends with us, we are having a boy. We're very excited about that. We got Maddie is our oldest. She's 5, and then Peter is he's about 2.5, and then we're gonna have baby boy number 3.
Now I had heard you had suggested a name for this.
So many names.
He's
Yeah.
suggested
I'm
a lot
working
of
The
on
names.
only one I heard was Montgomery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That was a pretty cool one.
you like that?
Montgomery Melcher.
Montgomery Eminem.
Well, when you put it that way. We're not calling him that. Come on now.
I'm just saying.
Well,
I
Maddie's
can only
that
see
way
one.
basically already.
I think.
Well, the real Eminem,
I don't think
please stand up.
linear. I've had friends that have named their children, and I'm like, the initials are this, and they're like, we can't do that. I'm just helping you out. 'Cause
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to need to initial something.
I don't know. That was just a morning where I thought alliteration would be really cool.
Yeah.
I was not having it.
He wasn't.
What was the middle name going to be?
Well, I don't go that far. That's their job.
Well,
I don't want to name your child fully. I want you to be part of it.
let's alliterate completely. So it'd have to be
Yeah.
another M.
Montgomery Milton.
Marshall. Montgomery Marshall Melcher.
Marshall is a name that was on Marissa's list for a long time.
I got to
It is no longer.
No? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I in jest suggested, well, I said Montgomery's, you can't do that. What about Montague?
Montague?
Montague.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Shakespeare.
And then you
but-
call him Monty.
Yeah, no.
And he didn't like that.
Nope.
He got real mad about that.
Is Montague a name? Is
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Never
Romeo
heard
and Juliet. One of the houses is Montague.
Oh, one of the
Anything
houses.
You can name, anything's a name.
Yeah,
This
pretty
is the,
much.
This is the world we're living in
Yeah,
right
in this
now.
day and age, you can name
Yeah.
just about anything.
What was it? Elon Musk's kid was a bunch of,
Yeah, just a bunch of symbols.
yeah, like longitude and latitude or something, or latitude, something like that, and some symbols and signs. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
X.
there you go. Right.
Kid's just an advertisement for his internet company.
It's difficult naming things.
Yeah.
I think it is. I've always been,
Well, when you're doing it for real.
Yeah.
When you're being serious about it.
well, yeah,
Right.
Which at some point you do get serious about it, but I don't know why I've always enjoyed this. But you know, we don't get too much insight into angels and demons, and you know, Satan's name was Lucifer. They call him Beelzebub. But then we see, you know, then there's Gabriel, but then there's also an angel, a really powerful one named Mike.
Michael.
Like Mike.
Mike and Gabe.
I just
Mike
like
and
that.
Gabe.
Like that. This is Lucifer. I'm Gabriel. I'm Mike. Excited to be with you guys
we've
today.
shortened it to Mike. You know,
I understand, but it's Mike.
it is Mike.
Nothing wrong with the name Mike. I just appreciate the simplicity of that angelic name. So
There's so many names, biblical names, that are so popular now. And as we're like going through the Old Testament and talking about a lot of these names with the kids, like, you know which ones they remember because they're the ones that like the names that their friends have.
yeah,
And then nobody knows Jehoiakim or Jehoiakim.
yeah,
Nobody remembers those.
yeah. It sounds like what does it sound like? Sounds like some type of martial art move.
It does. It really
Throw the
does.
Jehoiakim.
Even more so if you do the actual Hebrew, because the J would be like a breathing sound, like so it'd be like
Yeah.
You sounded like Tom Brokaw. Hey, my son, Joachim. I'm sorry, Joachim has a dynamo. That's my Tom Brokaw.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I should have warmed up a little bit. Have say hi hoes. It's just a bunch of random words.
Just a bunch
Tom's
of
not
breath
doing
noises.
well.
That's how he sounds. That's what he sounds like. So we were off last week because we wound up at the ER with Henry on Monday
gee.
night. He was having some really bad stomach pain, and so nobody got any sleep that night. So I wanted to stay home just to kind of monitor him. He was fine. Normal kid stuff. Kids get stomach issues all the time, but nothing serious. So we didn't podcast last week, and so we'll catch up for 2 weeks. We finished Romans 12 a couple of weeks ago, and we ended really focusing on the importance of hating what is evil, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good. And we went through this list, these verses at the end of Romans 12, starting in 9 until it finishes. And it seems like this impossible list of things to accomplish, and it's a bit overwhelming if you take it seriously. And I kept driving that home because I think so many of us read the Bible and we take it, we know it's true, and we take it seriously in that it is true and in that God wrote it, but not so much in that we actually have to live it and actually do it. And if you do that with the end of Romans 12, you do that with Romans 12 period, you do it with the entire Bible, all of a sudden, this part of you, if you're, we'll say a typical person, starts to feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of things you need to focus on a daily basis scripturally. So it becomes really challenging. And so wanting to not shy away from all the responsibility, but really redirect to the what I call power of simplicity. And it's not a term I came up with. Obviously, people say that all the time, but even when it comes to scripture. And so honing in and focusing in on this idea of everything else will be accomplished in that list. Let your love be genuine, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good, love one another with brotherly affection, and then it just goes on and on and on and on. Everything will be accomplished on this list if you focus on hating what is evil. And as Christians, we don't talk a whole lot about hate because it's this thing that we're supposed to avoid. Because we think of hate, we think of people, we think of maybe organizations. Covered Romans 13 this past week, hating our government, hating politicians, all of these things. And we're instructed to love our neighbors as ourselves. We'll open that up a little bit this week in the second half of Romans 13. But we are instructed to hate what is evil. And so the hate muscle, if you will, on the majority of us as Christians is fairly weak because we don't exercise it. And so when it comes to hating people, you want a weak hate. You want a weak hate muscle. You don't want to be able to have that be reflex. But when it comes to hating sin, you want that to be stronger, hating evil. And evil I define as anything contrary to God and his word, which is the most simple definition I could come up with. And sin obviously falls in that category. But if we hate what is evil, then the rest of these things fall in line. And so the instruction was to hate. Let's go and hate what is evil. And it's been interesting. What I've been doing lately on my phone is whatever verse seems to be the hone-in phone. I put it on my home screen or my lock screen on my phone as a reminder to myself, so that I'm practicing what I preach, that I'm not just preaching it on Sunday and then, because so often, like I work ahead. So when I'm preaching what I'm preaching, I'm already down the road a bit. And so I don't necessarily do a good job of, we'll say, carrying out the challenges within the week that they're supposed to be. And so I've been like, well, let me put this on my phone and dig in with hopefully the rest of the church or, people that are digging into it. And so I put, I hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good. And just seeing that on my phone, because how much evil is on my phone, right? How much evil do I use my phone for? Whether it's, listening to things I shouldn't listen to, whether it's getting frustrated with things, whether it's wasting time on my phone, playing a game, or, I love cars. I like looking at cars, and I like, looking at guitars and just sitting there and just putzing away. And so just even that, okay, let's make the best use of time, for the days are fleeting. That's what Scripture says. This is not the best use of time, me sitting here fiddling around with my phone. And so hate that evil, hate that sin. And so it's been a helpful reminder for me to do those things. And so this past week, we moved out of Romans 12 and we went into Romans 13. And we talked about politics. We covered the first 7 verses of that. And it was really focused on submitting to, respecting, or holding in regard and honoring those that God has placed in positions of authority, specifically civil authority. Romans 13 is confusing for people for some reason. I shouldn't say for some reason. That's a little too flippant of me. I should be more sensitive than that. People have a hard time processing how it could be God's will for what we consider to be corrupt, sinful, bad leaders to be put in these powerful positions. And so when we read it, we go, well, this can't mean that God creates the positions and that God wanted XYZ leader to be in place. And that is precisely what it means. It's not a text. It's not a section of Scripture that you need to bust out, a dictionary, or it's always good to go back to the original language if you have the ability to understand it and study it the way that it's meant to be studied. But Romans 13 means what it says. There's not some deep mystery within it. And so wanting to drive home the fact that this is not what we see in our world today when it comes to politics. We see people making fun of our politicians, and I focus more on our presidents in the presidency because we're in an election year for the presidency. And I mean, I don't watch much news. I get news secondhand from people, or like if I'm in the waiting room of somewhere, like physical therapy, they got the news on. And so you hear it, and it's bad. It's just all bad. And people are just being unbelievably disrespectful. I'm not on social media anymore, but when I was, and I was for many, many years, you just saw the disrespect and the dishonoring there. And what Paul says, and what the Holy Spirit says through Paul, what God says, is that when we resist or rebel, that word can mean against these leaders. It's like we're resisting and rebelling God because we're resisting what God has put in place. And so it was a heavier sermon. It was one that I knew had the potential for people to take what I was saying and view it as a political statement towards a particular party which is why for 5 minutes I went on about how little I care about politics and I'm not interested in it. I do my duty. I vote. I know the issues. Beyond that, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. It doesn't matter to me because I truly believe that God decides. And so I knew, though, it had the potential to get some people fired up, and I was fired up a little bit because I'm so tired of hearing about it. It's just I'm over it. I'm over of every presidential candidate being people thinking they're the Antichrist, and just people going, this country was founded on Christian principles, and for some reason, many Christians think that things are supposed to be getting better, but God has us on a prophetic timeline for His ultimate return and the destruction of evil. It's not going to get better. I don't believe we're ushering in some ultimate, paradise here on earth. I think we'll see many revivals in places here to there based on what God wants to do. But I don't think we're going to see a rise in Christianity. I don't think we're going to see a rise in morality. I don't think we're going to see a rise in integrity and in grace and understanding and love amongst people. I think it's only going to get worse. And this is just not to say so we don't try. No. As far as it depends on you, do your best to live peaceably with all. We just read this in Romans, as far as it depends on you. So I'm going to do my part to live peaceably with people, to love people in a Christ-like manner. I talked about the foolishness of allowing politics to separate us, because at the end of the day, all these governments are going to crumble, and every knee is going to bow, and every tongue is going to confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. So don't let it separate us. We can disagree on certain things that are not biblical issues. We can't disagree on those. Like abortion is wrong. It's always going to be wrong. It's always going to be murder. And I addressed some of these things. And at the very end, I decided to have a moment of levity. I wanted to lighten things up a little bit. And so it was funny, the feedback I got. And if you didn't watch the sermon, go back and watch the sermon. This will be a spoiler alert for you. But I had Edwin, I had this idea, and I texted Edwin. I'm like, hey, I have this idea. What time you coming in? And so I said, you may not be all about this. And I explained the idea to him, and he goes, why would I not be all about this? He goes, this is all I'm about. This is my favorite thing. It is, yeah. So the idea was, at the very end, to try to lighten things after such a serious topic, where people probably felt like they were getting yelled at. Even the tone of my voice was very direct and elevated at times. And that was the passion kind of coming out. And so I told Edwin, I want to do like a fake presidential poster as if I'm going to run, as if I'm a candidate. And so we came back here. Edwin did not take me to the woods for pictures. He said,
well, it's a different, it's a different
I was like,
vibe.
would you like to go in the woods? He's like, I don't want to be alone with you out in the woods.
We had to put you in front of a green screen,
right.
so there could be a bald eagle and
that's what it was.
American flag behind you.
And the idea was, to set people up, and what I said was true. Every year, every election year, it's presidential election year, people are wanting me to make some type of statement or take a stand and tell people how to vote. That was absolutely true. And I said, I've never done that. I'm not going to do that. But as we head into this November, I will say this. And then I said, Nemeth 2024. And the presidential music started playing, and the poster flew. And I saluted and then jogged off the stage for some stupid reason.
Marissa mentioned that specifically. She was like, he ran off the stage.
I jogged.
Like, oh, yeah.
I want people to know how committed I am. Rachel was telling me one time that there's this movie where Leonardo DiCaprio slammed his hand on a table, and a glass broke, and glass got stuck into his hand, and he
kept going.
Yeah. And as I jogged, the unbelievable searing nerve pain in my back from this compression was, I thought, I'm basically Leonardo DiCaprio right now, and I'm going to commit to the role of president-elect.
Oh boy.
Or Biden, when his inaugural address happened, he kind of jogged back there.
Did he? Oh, that's probably what I looked like.
So way back when.
I am equally as stiff as he's got to be what?
Equally as stiff as Biden.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to all depend on who you choose as your VP.
Well, so oddly enough, and this is what I want to make an official statement, I am not running. Because,
just in case.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Like some people didn't think that was serious, but they thought it was a good idea. Like they thought it was a good idea.
I could see that.
Well, you're what? How old are you?
45.
I mean, I'd rather have a 45-year-old.
Well, thanks.
Don't care what their stance is.
Oh, no. How old do you have to be president?
35.
35?
Yeah.
But there's no cap.
No cap.
Could be 100.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
so I'm
we
45.
forgot that part.
I'm in that. So we go back and listen to the sermon. Calm down. I'm right in that sweet spot, 45. Yep. And but some people were very. I walked out, and because we ended on a very high note and laughing, all that. I walked out, and Rachel told me like second service. She's like, I couldn't get to you. She's like, it's like you were the president. Like I'm shaking hands, walking through, and kissing babies, and it's like, so for the record, that was just a joke. I would never, unless the Lord made it absolutely clear that's what was to be done. But I don't think that's what he's going to do. I have no interest in politics. You have to care about politics in order to be a politician.
Yes.
And I don't. Besides the fact that, like Batman, and my hope to be a Batman, I lack all the skill to be a president. And I didn't say this on Sunday, and I was talking to Kevin this morning about this. And I didn't say it on Sunday because it was more commentary than it was biblical exposition. And I always try to strike that balance because I don't want to think that I don't have, and this is not, and I think you guys will take this how I mean it, and I hope you feel the same way about yourselves, and for those that are listening and watching, I hope you feel this way. God has given us his Holy Spirit inside of us, and so we have a level of discernment that comes from the Holy Spirit of God in us. And so to offer an opinion or commentary on something, sometimes we hold back. And I think in the pulpit, it's good to hold back to a certain degree because I'm there to explain God's truth. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that I don't have something good to say. And it doesn't mean that you don't, Chad, and you don't, Zach, or you don't either, if it's rooted in the truth. And so I didn't say this. I wanted pulling it out of the sermon because it was too personal and it was too much of a, it's a personal commentary. It's my own view. But as a kid, every Sunday we watched the Browns. Every Sunday. My dad loved it. He popped popcorn. We'd always watch the Browns. And he sat in this same chair from the 70s. It was probably the late 70s, early 80s. And it had wooden armrests. And the right armrest was loose. You could wiggle it back and forth because of his pounding his fist on the armrest, screaming at the referees and screaming at the coaches for making the wrong plays, calling the wrong plays. Mm. And so I remember I was about probably 10 or 11. We were watching the Browns, and he's sitting there pounding this stuff. And I'm looking at him like, he's really mad. And I was like, Dad, did you ever play football? And he's looking at me, he's like, no. And then he went back to screaming at the coach, telling him what plays he should make. And I thought, so you've never played, but somehow you're an expert. And in many ways, right, wrong, or otherwise, that's how we treat our politicians, specifically our president. Not a single one of us actually understands or has a clue what that job requires, what it takes to get there. And some of you are like, the corruption it takes to get, it still takes unbelievable dedication and hard work to get there. And we sit here and we just accuse, and we don't have a clue. It's people that come up to me and from a strictly preference standpoint, start telling me how to run a church. You need to do this. You don't have a clue. It's like me going to my doctor or my surgeon and saying, I wouldn't use that scalpel. You should probably use it. Now, we can be educated, and I'm not saying we can't have opinions, and I'm not saying we can't offer things, but for the most part, so much of it is rooted in pride. It's not really rooted in wanting to learn. It's rooted in pride and wanting to be right, or, I'm not saying all of us, but some of us want what's best, and there are genuine concerns, and I think that's a possibility as well. But in general, we don't have a clue. So we need to kind of step back and take a bit of a more of a humble stance and pray for these people. And again, I didn't offer this on Sunday. I feel okay here. People come in on Sunday, they have no idea what they're going to get. People are seeking out the podcast, they're listening. And it's the truth. In my opinion that we should just step back a little bit and understand we have no clue what the job entails. We have no idea the pressure of that job. And we sit here like armchair referees, smacking and pounding our fists. And this is not saying we agree with the issues, but the timing of things and things that in decisions that they do make that are not outside or violating God's word, that we still have such strong opinions on, it would be good to maybe take a little bit of a swallow the pill of humility a little bit. Are you guys into politics at all? Zach, are you into it at all?
No.
Just as much as you're saying.
Yeah, okay.
Not
into it at all.
Well, like you said, we have a level of discernment when the Holy Spirit enters our life. You realize I'm not even a part of this country as much as I'm a part of another. And there's a different king who leads my life and who runs things and will ultimately run all things. And so with that perspective, when your mind's set on eternity, yeah, there's things that I really wish would honor God within our political system, but I also understand I live in a sinful, fallen world that's going to be redeemed one day, and I'm waiting for that to be fulfilled. Jesus has come; he's ushered in this age in which the church is going to model as best they can the fruits of the kingdom and bring about kingdom economy and kingdom mentality here on earth as we await the coming fullness of his kingdom. And it's not going to be a perfect place to do that for a while.
Yeah.
For the time being. So Titus is a really good book to read this. It's almost like this book that's like a blueprint for the church, as Paul writes to a pastoral friend of his named Titus on Crete. And he basically teaches him, which is so relevant then, and it's still relevant to us today, how to lead your homes, how to embody Christ as the church, as the church gathered as worshipers, and then how to embody Christ-likeness in all the roles that you play within your home, within the marketplace, within the cities in which you live. And you're to be a kingdom outpost, awaiting the coming fullness of the kingdom, and replicating who Christ looks like, but still participating within the political system you find yourself in, and within the culture you find yourself in. But the pattern of this world is far different than the transformative mindset of the Christian, because the Spirit indwells them. So, yeah, you're kind of in this in-between space.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't put all my eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what a lot of people do. And they expect a fragmented system to somehow embody Christ. It's just not going to happen. That's your job.
There's something that my wife and I talk about often. And I would say it applies to this as well, is that you can't hold people who do not follow Christ to Christ's standards.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't expect them to do the things that he teaches and to follow them in truth, because they don't believe that it's truth.
Yeah.
And it's like you guys are saying, that doesn't mean that we don't try. That doesn't mean that we can't talk about these things, but there's a way that we go about it. And there's a way that we go about it in love and in truth. And it's like you said, I think pointing that out about what you said in Titus, it starts in the home.
Yeah.
If you want to make change, if you have children, if you have family, start there. Talk to those people. Talk to the people that you have a relationship with. You've talked about this a lot before when it comes to things like social media. People will just hop on social media and they're very quick to put things out there or say like, hey, I'm signing this petition, or you want to donate money to this cause. And it's not that those things can't be good, but how much of an impact are you really going to have there versus if you have a son or a daughter and you're spending time with them and you're showing them what it is like to be, to want to walk with Christ and to be like him and to live your life for him. That if I want my children to know Christ, I need to start with showing them what that looks like. And in addition to, having humility when I can't do those things,
right?
We are nobody here is perfect. We are not perfect. We don't have all of the answers, and we're certainly not going to see it all played out perfectly with all of these broken, sinful people, us included.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, God never corrects sin with sin. And so if you've got a politician, a governing authority that is doing something sinful, they're not going to use your disrespect. God's not going to use your disrespect, your lack of submission, or your dishonoring of this individual as a means to correct that individual. When we go to social media, if we see a president that's not doing something that we agree with, we'll say not even something that violates God's law. Taxes is a big one, right? Interest rates is a big one. And so people go and they'll spew that hate about that leader. That's sin. Maybe correcting the selfishness of our government or whatever it is, the sin of that. But God never uses sin to correct sin. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with what?
Good. There it is, yes.
So you overcome evil with good. You don't overcome evil with a different version of evil. And then because your version of evil doesn't feel evil because you know Jesus and you're standing up for the truth, it's still evil.
Well,
I think we forget sometimes.
People want it to be like conquest.
Yeah.
Like they want to win.
Yeah, call it righteous anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't just get to call anything righteous anger.
Meanwhile, Jesus is hanging on a Roman cross.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
God turning his back on him.
Right. And he's somehow, with all power, all authority, he lays down those rights.
Yeah.
And so this is the picture for us. It's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, like I talked about on Sunday.
Yeah.
We're like, we'll stand up. Will you stand up to the point of going to a furnace? Like, or will you be tough on social media? Okay, there's not really any consequences to that.
Right.
I mean, big deal.
That's such a great model to bring up to anybody who is feeling tempted to spew hate that they would call righteous anger
Right.
at a political party, a political individual leader, is to say, look at these three guys who, in the midst of the most corrupt political system you could possibly imagine, a tyrant leading his people and the people, speak of conquest, took over Israel and acquired them as slaves, and thought they were impressive young men because they were serving in even though this worst possible scenario they found themselves in as no longer free people, they were doing everything, their studies, their service, anything with excellence, as if they were doing it towards the Lord.
Yeah.
And he was impressed by them when he said, when the music plays, you've got to get on your knees and worship just like everybody else. And even in that moment, didn't spew hate at him, didn't yell and say, oh my goodness, this isn't like what our God does. Yeah, didn't boo him.
Not my king.
Not my king. Yeah, there's no language like that.
Yeah.
It's okay. If that's how you're going to play it, we're not going to bow down because we only serve one God. If you can respect that, great. But if you can't, throw us in the furnace. We know even if we die, we're with God, but he also has the power to save us.
Right.
So
that's so interesting that you brought that up, because we were talking about Daniel the past couple of weeks we've been talking about Daniel.
Yeah.
And Daniel being faithful and following God's commands,
Yeah.
and God rewarding that, God, and then using him to further his kingdom in a place where, there were tons of people that did not know Christ.
It's easy to stand up for Jesus behind a computer.
Yeah.
And it's easy to stand up for Jesus in the church. It's very easy for me to get up in front of 1,000 people that come here, that are here because they love Jesus or interested in Jesus, and to say all this, people sometimes come, they're like, you're so bold and you preach on the hard stuff. And I'm sitting here like, okay, no, it's in, first of all, it's in the Bible. So I'm not preaching on the bold stuff. I'm preaching on the Bible stuff. And you don't shy away from anything. And I understand that maybe other churches or other pastors or preachers or staffs or leadership or eldership wouldn't be behind these things. But those are heretical churches. That's what they are. And we can call them whatever we want, but churches that aren't willing to stand up on the truth of God's word are heretical churches. They have a truth and a foundation that isn't rooted in God's infallible word. But it's not bold. It's bold maybe because you don't hear it in a lot of churches, but it's not. Like, we consider that bold. It's normal. Like in the New Testament, this is what you see.
It should be normal.
It should be normal. In this cultural climate, it's considered bold, or you're considered brave. I had some guy come up to me on Sunday. He's like, well, you got some stones on you. And I'm like, okay, but it's not how it feels to me. And it doesn't feel that way to you guys as you lead your ministries, as you lead children, Zach, as you lead students, chat. Like we're called to boldness, but are we really being bold because we're preaching like just the truth in church? Like that doesn't seem bold to me, but in this cultural climate, it is. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's crazy how things have shifted. That's why I thought that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was a good example because we're all brave and tough until it comes to the furnace. Yeah. And, I think it's something for us to consider again. And like we've been talking about, like we've all said, do your duty. You can have your opinion. You can discuss it. But when you start to ask Holy Spirit to reveal to you if your level of involvement in political things, political issues, campaigns is becoming sinful, is it becoming idolatrous, is it producing anger, hatred, bitterness, a lack of trust in you? And then ask yourself, why do you really care that much? Is it about a party winning and being a part of a winning side? Do you really care about society? Do you really, the abortion issue? It's a huge issue. Like, what's that? Do you feel that way about abortion because your party feels that way? Do you really believe in the sanctity of life? Are you thinking about those children? Is it beyond that? Is it a violation of God's law and you love God's law so much? Like, it's good to mine these things out and get to a place where you can, we'll say, bring balance, and the Spirit can bring balance to your level of care and your level of possible paranoia and idolatry when it comes to politics. There's certain things we can't control, and it turns out those certain things are everything.
Yeah.
It's up to the Lord.
Yep.
It's up to the Lord. The die is cast, right? Or the lot is cast, but it's every decision is from the Lord. Every decision is from the Lord. All throughout Scripture, every decision is from the Lord. And so we do our part, and God calls us to do our part because he accomplishes his will through us. And this is, somebody going, why do people vote then? If God decides, why do people vote? The same reason why God uses us to spread the gospel message. We're a part of his process. Yeah. If we can just wrap our heads around that we're a part of the process of what God wants to accomplish, we won't be so perplexed when things go a certain way or what our responsibility is in those things. All right.
All right.
All right.
All right. Let's dig into a question. I thought this would be a great question for you two experts in the field.
Good one.
Of child.
In the field, definitely.
Childlike and student ministry.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego story is going to really come to bear on this as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's got to.
Here you go. There's a couple of names instead of Montgomery. You guys want a baby Shadrach?
Little Abed.
Oh, gosh, no.
Abednego. That's hard to say
Abednego.
fast. As a kid, I said Abednego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
everybody did. Larry the Cucumber couldn't say it either.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you remember that
From
one?
VeggieTales. This is not a gangster that Zach knows. An old-timey mafia guy. From Jersey.
Yeah, Larry the Cucumber. Go Larry the Cucumber.
Hey,
you know
this
him.
buddy of mine from New York, right? Larry the Cuke.
No, he couldn't say. He was like a Benny Boo. He couldn't say Abednego. So it was Rack Shack and Benny is what they went by in that one. That's old school VeggieTales.
Wow.
Henry can't get into VeggieTales.
My kids haven't either.
How your mind went to a mafia member is been perplexing me for quite a moment here.
Really? Larry the Cucumber?
Yeah.
Well, they always got names. Like, it's never just like
They
John.
always
It's
Tomato, Junior Asparagus.
right. No, I know, but the mafia guys. Yeah.
I'm still on VeggieTales.
Yeah.
Left eye.
This is why I'm doing children's
A
ministry.
lot of produce themed mafia guys out there.
Well, I know, but that's what made it funny.
Bob the Tomato is making the
So
sauce.
Zach had to push his microphone away. All right, here we go. Question.
Don't want to meet the pickling process of Larry the Cucumber.
Oh, no. Oh, man.
All right. Put him on the brine. We're not putting them on
Be
ice.
swimming with the turtles.
Back to the turtles.
Yeah, I don't know. I lost them.
Right. This ain't no sweet pickle. All right.
Just the one more.
Yeah, one more. One more. How do I equip my children to face the cultural onslaught of gender and sexuality issues in our public schools and generally in our mainstream culture? I'd like to know what to point them to in the Bible that can explain what is right and show them how to use God's word to determine what is true. I want them to learn how to love others well, but to use the Bible as their litmus test for right and wrong. So this idea of pushing gender and sexuality on children is becoming more and more prevalent. We, in the area of ministry that I do predominantly, and of course in my role, I oversee all the ministries, but I have all the contact with the kids for the most part is with you, Zach, as the family pastor, and our students is with you. And this issue it's showing up in schools now. It's showing up in content that's consumed. We're at the point now, I've got a 7-year-old.
It's been there for a long time.
It's unavoidable.
It is. It's been there for a while.
It has.
It's gaining momentum. What hasn't been there for a while is, and we see this because she said a culture in general. What we haven't seen is the push for this in media the way that it was before. Commercials, right? Commercials containing same-sex couples, TV shows that are starting to celebrate transgender, and social media now exists where people that are part of the LGBTQ plus community now have an audience. Where in my time, Rachel and I were talking about this the other day, like we didn't get the internet until I was 16. The internet didn't exist. I didn't grow up with a cell phone, so there was no platform for this to take place. And so it's widened for sure. So and we'll start with you, Chad. What are you seeing your students come in with? What kind of questions, what kind of, we'll say, cultural baggage are you seeing in students, Hope Middle and Hope High right now? What knots are you having to untie? What are we having to deprogram? And what resources are you pointing them to?
Yeah, resources I'll start with. So I've said this on the podcast before, but I always do once a year a Q&A series. You've done a Q&A series a few times as well.
Big time.
There's a few, you could speak to this, main church series that you've done as well that could speak to these topics. But if you want my perspective, you want what we do in student ministry every year, we do a Q&A series, and it has never gone without a how to respond to my friends who are affirming or they are aligning with, meaning that they subscribe to and believe that they are part of the LGBTQ plus community. How do I guess, resist having friction with people that I've, come to call my friends at school or family members? So we've done a Q&A series on our YouTube channel. It is literally just called Q&A. So if you go to the Students at Hope YouTube, you can type that in and find the last few years of that. Our high school will be going through that in the fall once school starts again to kind of equip them for going back into their schools with those topics that are burdening them. And then at the turn of the year, because we're going to be in the parables for a while with middle school right now, at the turn of the year 2025, we will do our middle school Q&A, which I am sure will have those same questions.
I would imagine.
But like I said earlier, it's been there for a while in the culture. Like this stuff that is being brought up as like, oh, this cultural onslaught is happening. It has been there for quite some time. Schools making accommodations for young people who identify as animals, who identify in the LGBTQ plus community.
Do you feel like it is getting worse? Because when you say
I don't think it's getting worse.
Really? Okay.
I think in culture, there's been quite the pendulum swing, and it's come mainly from organizations who have tried to push that, like you said, in media to go, we're allies to these communities.
What's not getting worse, the number of people that subscribe to this,
right,
or the number, or how it's being communicated?
Yeah, I think it's through media, felt forceful to the greater audience of our for our country, and there's been such a pushback on, let's not force this. If people want to identify that way, okay, fine, give them their space, but we're not gonna be okay with this being in commercials. That's what I feel culturally. It's been pushed back upon. People have been fired for forcing I will call it propaganda, to say we need to make this normative to our culture. I think people are still trying to make it normative, but yeah, it feels like maybe it's a common grace in my opinion, that it hasn't gotten worse. Hasn't gotten worse. So I think like common sense and common grace have been like what I'm seeing in our culture, and I'm thankful for that. I think logically, people come back to common sense. Like what I can say is I've seen a lot of students simply go, okay, I should be an ally to those communities, or maybe I'm feeling a sense of same-sex attraction, or maybe I am supposed to be an animal. And after some conversations, very light conversation, and pointing them to God's design for male, female, for relationships, just basically God's design. Eventually, over the course of maybe a couple of weeks, I've seen kids just go, oh yeah, why was I even thinking that? And that's both a work of the Holy Spirit and a work, I think, of God's common sense he places on us. Like, it's just not how we're designed to be.
Yeah.
They've come back to that.
So you would say that the overall saturation of that community is the same that it's always been in relationship to numbers, but you would say that the perpetuation of it through media sources, organizations has gotten we'll say worse. There's more discussion around these things in corporations.
Yep.
Okay, I got you.
Absolutely.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. And I thought it was going to get worse. I thought it was going to be
tons of kids coming in.
Yes.
Yeah, boys want to be girls, girls want to be boys, and
that was my sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of leveled off. The pendulum has swung back.
Yeah.
That was pushed, like, no, we're going to make this normal. We're going to make people that feel this way feel secure, feel like they belong. And it's just gone to like, yeah, you can do that. You have a human will, or people will throw around free will, do what you want.
Sure.
But, you're not going to teach our children that. There's just been so much communication, speaking of like politics, of parents going at schools with these things. And maybe in certain parts of the country, it's worse than others.
Yeah.
But in my context, it's not been getting worse. I know maybe talk to some teachers about that. But anyway, to this question, I love how the question's worded. How do I equip my children to face these issues? Public schools, mainstream culture. I love that. Thank you that you are seeing it as your responsibility. It's your responsibility as the parent to provide the truth to your child. There's going to be different versions that people call truth in this world. But like I said, I've had just a couple conversations with any student who's gone, maybe I'm feeling like I identify as an animal, or maybe I'm same-sex attracted. Okay, these feelings might be there. Again, you live in a sinful, fallen, fragmented world that temptation might be unique to you in these ways. But here's what God says. Here's how he designed you. Your parents are of this same view and they love you. And after a few weeks, they have gone, oh yeah, I think I was just getting drawn in by these viewpoints that logically don't make sense and biblically don't make sense.
What's drawing these kids in? Is it their...
It's a sense of security. It's a sense of identity.
But this is learned behavior, and this is
Yes.
what people would begin to argue
Yeah.
in a sense. And let me specify what I mean by learned behavior. Everybody's born with sin, and everybody's born with some type of, we'll say, sexual desire, sexual pursuit. It's innate. It's what God gave us. And biblically speaking, and what we see in Genesis is that, you know, a man pursues a woman pursues a man. We pursue the opposite sex. So these kids are born with sexual sin, and whether it's a same-sex attraction or a confusion about being an animal, that one's a little bit different, I think, than same-sex attraction.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There were kids that when I was in elementary school, there were boys that were more, and this is how it played out, they were more effeminate. And here they are in life as adults, 45-year-old adults like me, and they are living that homosexual lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so people say, well, do you think you're born gay? That was a very popular thing. I think you're born a sinner, and how that sexual sin manifests itself, you're going to be bent towards something. So in a sense, yes, because they're born a sinner.
Yeah.
I don't think people are born with the desire to be a cat, you know? So
Right.
where's this, and I keep saying cat. I don't know why I'm choosing, because I have cats. But you
Cats
said
common.
animal.
But the pursuit
Common
of
animal.
a sense of identity is the common denominator within all of these.
Yeah.
Wanting
If I
to
find
find
it within
identity,
my
yeah.
sexuality, within my
Right.
gender, within how I portray myself to the world, and maybe I need to be a little bit different than what tradition tells me, and I go at it and go, it's not tradition, it's the way that God designed you.
Yeah.
The way that your parents want to bring you up. And I've been fortunate. A lot of these situations have been the parents are loving, the parents are godly, they have a relationship with Jesus. They're coming to me to have these conversations with the kids because they're going, we having conversations, but we don't know why they're still pursuing this. And when they realize that their sense of identity is to be founded in God's design for them and the love and stewardship that these parents have, the roles that they have that God has given them, they go, oh, why am I venturing out to find this sense of identity when God has already given it to me?
You think any of it has to do with, I mean, certainly the world is giving permission now to explore anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Certainly. But that
why
that
it's
desire to stand out.
Yeah, that's why it took off so greatly. And that's a great point you make. And that was the other resource I was going to mention. My friend, Pastor Nate Bebout, he came and guest spoke at our Grow Night a couple years ago. And he went on this exact topic for a while, and it was very, very well said. And he talks about, and again, this was a couple years ago when it was like, oh man, this is getting worse and worse in our
here we
culture.
go.
The pattern in this world is just going off the rails. He talked about the great collegiate address that's given at Kenyon College, or the gentleman says, and Mark actually brought this up in a recent sermon about the three fish swimming in water. Two of them are friends, they're swimming, and an older fish comes along and says, the water's great today, right? And they go, yeah, sure. Older fish swims away, these two look at each other and go, what is water? They've never realized that there's a current, there's an environment in which they live. They don't have a word for the patterns that are all around them. It's invisible to them. And the water that in which we live in is a globalization and a access to all matter of things, as Jeff Goldblum would say.
Yes, all matter.
All
of
matter
things.
of things.
Yeah, it's good, Chad.
Especially on the phone, we talked about.
Yeah.
And so when you have all these options presented to you, which is just unprecedented in our world today, we only have, of course, like these students are going to be products of.
It's like buffet syndrome.
I was going to say the customers
Yeah.
to which I can be whatever I want to be, I guess.
I go to Golden Corral if I see
Yeah.
a food.
Buffet, like
Well, like
Buffet.
oysters.
Got it. Okay.
I've never
Yeah.
tried oysters before. I'll try oysters because it's available
Yes.
to me now. And what the world has done is they've buffeted sin.
Mm-hmm.
It's a buffet of sin.
It's all on display.
Right. And so you can try it.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to a steakhouse, you can only get the steak or the chicken or whatever. There's no option to try anything beyond that. And so the world's given permission.
That's the water in which
Yeah.
they're swimming, which is going to be different than the person asking the questions generation.
Yeah.
Even my generation.
Yep.
Your generation.
Yeah.
It's just different. It manifests different for them. And we do have to be having our finger on the pulse of what the kids are experiencing and why they might venture off and try and
So the frequency
find this identity.
of confusion has increased.
Yes.
But, however, the conversion to that confused state you think is static. It's about what it's been
I think a lot
in your experience.
in my experience, I think it falls apart for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's in my experience because I only presented something so simple, logical, and
There's
biblical.
power in simplicity, though.
There's power in simplicity.
Yeah.
And the second thing that Nate talks about in that sermon at our Grow Night was not only the frequency, but that within media that they're watching, or like you mentioned, what's being pushed in a lot of media, or people feel like they have to push in order to market to this people group.
Yeah.
And so therefore these kids become customers of that too, because it's in Disney, it's in cartoons, it's in
Yeah.
stuff for kids. What ends up happening in the conflict in which they watch in these forms of media is if somebody doesn't agree with who I'm claiming I am to be or how I was supposed to be, created, cut them off, get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so they feel that push. They feel that is supposed to be normal, that I would cut my parents out, cut the people that do understand what my identity is supposed to be out so I can go explore this. But when I say, no, you don't cut that out, like that's there for a reason and it's good for you.
And God instituted that.
And God
framework.
instituted it.
Yeah.
Why would you try and cut something so foundational out and something that's always been what God intended for you? So a verse that always comes to mind for this is, and it's literally titled "Disaster After Disobedience," or "Disaster of Disobedience" in Jeremiah 6. Jeremiah 6:16. I use all the time with these topics. It says, "This is what the Lord says: Stand by the roadways and look." There's all these options in which you can go, all these paths in which you can go in life. It's going to be presented to you. Stand by the roadways and look. Ask about the ancient paths. Which is the way to what is good? Then take it and find rest for yourselves. God presents to us what the good way is. And we remain faithful to that, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Even if you're told to do something different, even if you feel like you're pressured to go a different way, you remain faithful to the good way. It's simple. God has given it to us. He's instituted it.
This is the way.
This is the way. Exactly. But God's people receive disaster because they respond to God. They protested it. We won't. I appointed watchmen over you and said, listen for the sound of the ram's horn. But they protested. We won't listen. You can show this to anybody and go, okay, God gave them the solution. God gave them the way and said, we're not going to go that way. We don't want to. Do you really want that for yourself? Do you want something beyond the way that has already been established by God that is good? No. Look at what has already been given to us and go there. So that's a great one for students, for families. It's already been given to us. If you're equipping your child for all these issues, you obviously want to be in prayer and you want to be asking for wisdom and you want to teach them how to ask for wisdom. You want to show them the Proverbs that teach children how to acquire wisdom. You want to think about James that says, if you ask God for wisdom, he will give it to you without finding fault. As a parent, teach your kids how to ask for wisdom in prayer. When it comes to, man, my friends might have conflict with me if I view sexuality and gender differently than they are. As far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all people. That's all you can do. That's all you can control. So that's what you pursue.
And you don't have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't have to be belligerent about it.
Exactly.
You can share these things that you believe when they come up at the appropriate time. You don't have to get in people's faces about it as a student. That's not to say that you should shy away and never, but like if the opportunity presents itself, and you are having a conversation with somebody that you have a relationship with and they're asking you about it, then share it in truth and love. And we're not condemning, because we are not the ones who condemn. It is not up to us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you said with sharing boldly. We're not trying to be bold for the sake of being bold. We're just trying to share truth.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to focus on the main issue as well.
Yeah.
Which is, and I've said this so many times, I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing it, but unless people are having a conversation and they have the same foundation of truth, they will never resolve.
Yes.
They'll never get to a place of agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I've got somebody, if I'm a student, if I'm a person, an adult, doesn't matter, but we're talking about students primarily here. If I'm a student and I've got some friends that are LGBTQ plus affirming and not just affirming, but they're living that lifestyle, to go at them and say things like, that's a sin. The Bible says that's wrong.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Fall on deaf
Might
ears.
as well, right. It would be like someone telling me how to live my life based on Harry Potter. Like, I don't believe that to be truth.
Yeah.
I think it's a story. And so I'm not going to live based on what J.K. Rowling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on what she wrote. And it's the same for people that don't understand the infallibility of Scripture, that haven't been chosen, haven't been given faith at this point. And so don't spend your time or waste your time trying to convince somebody that, yes, you're a boy and you need to stay a boy, you shouldn't be a girl. Talk to them about the truth of Jesus Christ. Show Christ's love, his compassion, his mercy. Look at them, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Be willing to hang on a cross, hang your temper, hang your desire to win and be right on the cross. Crucify that, sacrifice that, and just love them and share the good news of Jesus Christ. So get to the main issue.
That's what I was saying is, like, this is not a conversation that you're having with somebody who you're an acquaintance with. No. Maybe it's somebody that you know, it's a good friend who's known you a long time, and they know who you are. And then that's the opportunity. You form the relationship first. You show them what Christ looks like by how you're living it. And this is kind of, I don't want to cut you off if you have more things you wanted to share. But this is kind of what I was thinking about with young children, because I don't work with the older kids. We get some sixth graders that hang around for a little while, but it starts at birth back here. They're coming in to the East Wing to hear what we're sharing at 5 years old. So there's even time there, but a lot of it is about sharing. If you have young kids, sharing the truth with your children, teaching them. I think what this person is getting at, like, this is already a great place to start. Like you were saying, you desire to have their foundation be in truth. Mm-hmm. And if you have young kids, start teaching them that truth now. There's been a lot of things that I think have been, that we have been able to handle well by the grace of God, because we've started sharing the gospel with our children at a very young age. Things that the world finds hard to handle and talk about, like death. It's very difficult, but we've been able to navigate those a little bit easier because of what we've been able to share with our children. And I think this is another thing, sharing what you were saying, Chad, God's design for them. God created them this way. He's created them with a purpose and a plan.
If you're watching this on YouTube, this might seem like a strange moment.
Apologies.
Yeah, we lost video for the last half hour. We don't know what happened. So you got the audio. Hopefully the video is going to work again. But Chad's going to pick it up from what he was talking about, if you recall.
I think I was planning a purpose.
Oh, that's right. That's what you were
Yes.
going to do. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yes.
You finish and
I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sharing that truth with them from an early age. You were talking about, the ancient path, people looking at it just as tradition. It's not tradition. It's biblical truth. There's a reason that we teach this to our children, that we want them to learn this when they are young.
Yeah. Don't recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
God's already given us a path.
I can't think of the verse, but I'm sure one of you could tell me what the reference is, but
That's a lot of pressure. You don't think I can do that?
the one that talks about teach them in the ways that they
Proverbs
should go.
22:6.
Yeah, and they will not depart from it. Like, teach them from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them about these things early. This is a bit of a different situation for this parent because their parents are not their kids are not little tiny tykes anymore.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like I said earlier too, just to bring it back, like simplicity is going to be the most prominent thing for this, because this is such a complex issue, because it started with a certain group of people wanting to identify a certain way, and it just keeps expanding. And so they're going to hear so many different paths. So just keep it simple, stupid. There is one path, and it's not a bad path. It's the good way. Why try to get satisfied in some other way when you already recognize the one good path that's going to satisfy, and it's going with the Lord? And yeah, you could go to that responding to the LGBTQ plus friends on that Q&A series that we did, and we do role playing. We do, here's a real life scenario that you might find yourself in with not just an acquaintance, but your best friend or a cousin, that you go to family reunions with all the time every year, and you want to have a relationship with. Here's how to respond in a way that honors God and that isn't in their face, that isn't causing hostility, but that is peaceable. And when I think back to that sermon, I do want to point you to, again, just go to Grow Night and type that into our YouTube on Students at Hope YouTube. Nate talks about that, the waters and with the current in which they're swimming in, they don't even recognize it's there. They don't recognize where it came from. That's the pattern of the world that they find themselves in now. They see media that is pushing them to get rid of people in their life that love them and are trying to call them to the one good way, and they're trying to find a different way and find an identity. All that is anti to what Paul says we need to be doing as the church, and trying to be selfish in your life, to go, I'm going to live the way that I decide, not the way that God decides for me, not that ancient path that God's already set before me. In 1 Corinthians 6, which verse is it at here? My apologies. It's the end, verse 19. He says, don't you know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God? You are not your own. That's what everything hinges on. Everything hinges on for that argument. You're not your own. God purchased you at a price. He sent his one and only Son to purchase you back from the sin, from the desire and temptation to go in your own prideful way, to explore every other way but him. He bought you back from that. Don't keep trying to run and flee away from him. You are not your own. You were bought at a price. So glorify God with your body. And it's in the context of then Paul going on to the principles of marriage and the relationship between man and woman. And again, back to a foundation of the truth of God's design for man and woman, male and female. Paul says, now in response to the matters you wrote about, it is good for a man not to use a woman for sex, but because sexual immorality is so common, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman should have sexual relations with her own husband. A husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise a wife to her husband. A wife does not have the right over her own body, but her husband does. In the same way, a husband does not have the right over his own body, but his wife does. Do not deprive one another, except when you agree for a time to devote yourselves to prayer. It's like Paul is just going back to Genesis 1 and going, if you're going to be in a marital relationship, here's what it's going to be like. And here's how you treat one another. And you're one flesh, just as God tells us from the very beginning, from the get-go. So if you're a mom, if you're a dad trying to teach your kids about what God's designed for that relationship, this is a perfect place to go. And it's so very simple how Paul lays it out here. And then if you're not married, well, then you're not having to worry about depriving the spouse. And these kids, if I'm reading this correctly, these kids are in middle school. They're not married. So what should they be doing? They should be in prayer. Like I said, asking God for wisdom. How do I honor you, God, with my sexuality? How do I honor you when in the midst of temptation? How do I follow you the good way when these moments come? That's what they have to be doing because they're not even married. They don't even have to be worrying about a spouse right now. And that's what Paul gets to next. He says, then come together again. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you because of your lack of self-control. I say this as a concession, not as a command. I wish that all people were as I am, single. But each has his own gift from God. One person has this gift, another has that. If you've got the gift like Paul does to literally spend your life in ministry and gospel ministry for the kingdom and bear fruit for his kingdom that way, he says that's awesome. Please do it. You won't even have to worry about depriving your spouse or worry about the way that you're supposed to act and be in those relationships. You're only devoted to God. But if, like many of you, you're going to burn with passion for the other sex, then get in that marriage and do it this way. And that's what you need to be looking forward to. And it's very simple. So I think that's a great context verse to go to. You're not your own. God bought you at a price. And there's many ways to simply honor God when you get into that relationship between man and woman, male and female.
This reader asks, I'd like to know what to point them to in the Bible. That's a great example.
Yeah.
To point them to in the Bible, explain what is right and show them how to use God's word to determine what's true. Go back to the beginning like Paul does. Go back to Genesis 1. Go back to Genesis 5. God created them. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. It's a binary thing. There's men, there's women. And with the transgender thing that's going on, there's Deuteronomy 22:5, I think, talks about, men not dressing in women's clothing and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's really the only place you get that explicit instruction in Scripture from my knowledge. And the argument that I see so many people have that want to have their cake and their faith, so to speak.
Cake and faith.
Cake and faith is
Nice.
They go, well, that's the only place it's in the Bible, and it's in Deuteronomy, and it's the Old Testament, and there's other things in Deuteronomy, other laws that aren't in place, now, and just think of the sacrificial system. When Jesus came, he abolished all those things. Well, Jesus did not abolish Genesis 1, creation, male and female. That's it. Like, that's not, and so men are to be men, women are to be women. That's what that means. This has existed for a long time, going all the way back to Moses. People were confused about their sexuality. They felt a certain way, and that's just sin. That's sin doing what sin does. And so you take them to, and by the way, if it's in the Bible once, that's enough. It doesn't need to be in there twice. If it's in there once, it's enough. And it's our job to understand that certain things are foundational. We go to the creation of the world. We don't modify that. When Paul is talking about roles of men and women in the church, where does he go to? He goes all the way back to the creation. We go back to the creation. That's the foundation of how things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Then sin enters the world through Adam, and so sin, death. Death to what? Physical death, spiritual death, and death to the original design. And so people begin to pervert God's original design almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
We've got polygamy showing up. We've got murder showing up in Genesis. This is how it goes. And so we go back to the original design. We go back to the garden. Male and female, he created them. In the image of God, he created them. That's it. Two genders. And so you take your kids there and you show them there what that means. But the more important thing is, and this is how to show them how to use God's word to determine what is true. They have to have that same foundation. That truth does come from the Bible.
Yeah.
And God, when he gives us faith, gives us his spirit, gives us a desire to pursue that truth, to pursue wisdom like you talked about. And that comes with faith. And so you evangelize your children. It starts there.
Yeah. Yep.
If your children aren't in faith, you pointing them to the Bible, like we talked about, you can't hold non-Christians to Christian standards. You can't hold them to Christian standard. And there's this balance that we strike, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, as parents for our kids and their faith. We get real aggressive. Not when they're Maddie's age, it's kind of a soft launch. Ledger's age, we're just a little Salt Bay. We're just dusting a little bit. Henry's age, we're just
topical references.
It's it. I'm hip, man.
Yeah,
I don't need social media to be cool.
You can tell when you were last on social media.
Yeah, right? Anyways, if they're listening to NSYNC and having all kinds of fun. No, I'm kidding. So what you do as little children is you sprinkle it in because they don't have the capacity to understand the deep mysteries.
Yeah.
And you're everything to them. They rely on you for literally everything. Mm-hmm. And so they trust what you have to say for the most part. Even Henry's age, 7. I've got the oldest one of the lot here. He trusts what I say. He trusts that I'll keep him safe. He trusts in my judgment for the most part. Not to say that he's not argumentative when he asks for ice cream and I say, no, it's 7:30. You're going to bed in a half hour. That's perplexing to him, but he trusts. Start getting into Chad's age group that he ministers to, which is, that's 6th grade. So you're 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way through high school. And we begin to parent in a different way. And this has been not my experience from parenting, but this has been my experience from counseling parents of teenagers. So for some reason, parents get afraid of their kids. They do. And the fear is driven from a potential separation, meaning that their kids aren't going to want to spend time with them anymore. The kids aren't going to want to be with them anymore, that there's going to be tension in the home because if we don't just lay down and let the kid believe what they want to believe, my kid says they're a cat. What do I do with this? And this is not what we've seen maybe so much in our church, but this is what we see a lot in culture. And this is what we have seen with Christians is we're afraid to say things like, you're going to church. You're going to get up, you're going to get ready, you're going to go to church. We're afraid to lead with any type of strength. And there becomes a point where you don't push so much that it becomes burdensome, but you are still allowed to and called to push and understand that your kid or your teen may push back and that teen that pushes back, it may cause division in your home, but keep in mind what Jesus says, Matthew 10, do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I'm not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set man against his father, and daughter against her mother, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and person's enemies will be those of his own household. The message of Jesus Christ can be offensive. In some people's view, it's narrow, it's intolerant. In your teenager that is living in a very liberal culture and society that is being completely bombarded, I think, with messages from their friends and from media and from their own sin nature that they need to accept everything and everything's okay and you can have your truth and Zach can have his truth and I can have my truth and there's no real absolute truth. They're probably going to butt up against this. And when they do, don't think that you've done something wrong. It's the opposite. you've done what you're supposed to do. Proverbs 22:6, train a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. That's what you're supposed to do. That's your job. And like every job, there are parts of the job that are really hard. And as a parent, when you parent your child and your child disagrees, or they appear to be in a state of instability, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, any type of tension you see that you've caused because you have done your job in training them and trying to train them, God said, Jesus says it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Not every story is a story like some of the ones that you share, Chad, and Chad knows that better than, because not every time you hit the ball, it's a home run. It's not a grand slam. There is tension, and sometimes it diffuses in a couple of weeks, and sometimes it goes on into adulthood. I counsel those people, not the ones, they go to you and you counsel them, and when their kid is 25 or 30 and living in a transgender lifestyle, they're sitting on my couch and they're sitting here going, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah.
How do we help them? And it truly is, how do we point them to God's word to determine what is true? They have to believe. So like Zach said, he started at an early age sharing the gospel. And then as they mature, the message should mature. But one of the most valuable things you can do as a parent, and I said this at the men's conference for the last couple of years, because we always get questions about parenting at the men's conference, is include the Bible. And don't just include it. Make the Bible your primary resource for parenting.
Yeah.
When you correct your child, attach it to Scripture. Reinforce God's word. Not that it needs reinforced. Reinforce God's word with your parenting, reinforce your parenting with your God's word.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's both. When you parent through God's word, you're telling your child that you believe this to be true. And then when you use God's word to parent your child, you're telling your child you believe this to be true. And it's this double reinforced system of training your child through repetition. It can't, and it needs to be consistent. Like, it has to be consistent. It can't be this one-off thing that benefits you. Don't lie to me. You took the car without permission, didn't you? No, I didn't, Dad. Don't lie. The Bible says don't lie. And there's a dent in the car now, and you're going to pay for that. Okay, all true, but maybe not resourced. And if you just use it occasionally, then your kid's going to be like, listen, you only use Scripture when it's to your benefit, or when it's you wanting to be right. And don't be afraid to out yourself.
Yeah.
To your children.
Yeah.
And attach that to the Scriptures.
That's what I was mentioning earlier. Like, you can't be afraid to admit that you are at fault, that you sin. And there's this
levels the playing ground.
And that's part of the fear, is they're like, well, if they see that I'm fallible, if they see that I'm sinful, then won't they not think I'm an authority figure anymore? I have not found that to be the case with my own children.
Right.
None
of us have at this point, because they're young.
Yes.
Yeah. The moment they come online, though, in there as a teen, like everything does change. And Henry at 7.5 is in school for 7.5 hours a day. And so he is under the influence of his peers and his teachers longer than he is under our influence on a daily basis, sans the summertime. And so he wakes up at 6. He's at school by 8:30. We get 2.5 hours there. He gets home at 4. He goes to bed at 8. We get 4 hours there. That's 6.5 hours. The school gets him for an hour and a half to 2 hours longer than we do.
Yep.
So pay attention to what your kids are learning in school. Pay attention to their friends. Remind your kids that separation may come. I want them to learn how to love others well, but to use the Bible as their litmus test for right and wrong. The last thing I'll say is this. If you want the Bible, if you want your children to live according to the Bible, you do it first.
Yep.
You do it first. Don't just bring the Bible into your parenting into the Bible to reinforce the Bible. Actually live it.
Yeah.
live it. Some things are taught, some things are caught, as they say. Teach your children, and then let your children catch you doing the things that the scriptures teach.
Yeah, you show them what's normative, not the world.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I think
set the pace.
The biggest problem is what I see in this question, what I've seen in parents, is they're coming at it with this fear of what they're going to be indoctrinated with out there.
Right.
You shouldn't be fearful if you're the one bringing the truth into your home consistently.
Yeah.
That's your job.
That's the hard part of the job.
You can't put Christian standards on the public school, on the private school, even on the Christian school. They're going to do their best and have values to be a Christian school, but I've seen plenty of, because I went to Christian school as a kid, I saw plenty of peers that were just as sinful as kids I went to with public school, if not worse, because they were in the shell of a Christian thing, but it wasn't as if it was modeled to them consistently as this is the way we go, right? Well, it has to be lived, not just taught.
Absolutely.
It has to be caught, not just taught.
Right. And one last thing I'll say, and I forgot to say it, don't just tell your kids what the Bible says. Show them. Read the Bible with them. And don't just show them with your life. Read it.
Yeah. This is how we're going to be faithful to Christ in this situation. It should be no different than any other situation you find yourself teaching your kid how to be honoring and faithful to God in.
Yeah, build it.
But there's some stigma and fear to this topic that it's going to just draw my kid in, and I'm going to lose them to it.
Yeah.
And if you come at it like I was always taught as a kid, don't swat at the bees when they come at you. Just chill, and they'll end up leaving you alone. But if you start to show the fear and swat around and try to defend, you're probably going to get stung. There's this inherent fear. I'm swinging around. I'm trying to do everything I can in my power and my effort to make sure I protect my kid from this indoctrination. If you, Neal will say this, Neal has Henry in public school.
I do.
And you're okay with hearing what Henry is learning from school and then redirecting what Scripture says.
Yeah.
If you don't feel comfortable with that, then you should look at alternative solutions.
It's not for everybody.
To maybe homeschool the kid and make sure that they are in that environment with you, and you're not, at the mercy of whatever you fear is indoctrinating. If that's where you have to go, that might be the thing to do. But I think that you don't have to, the Word of God is not going to return void. The Word of God is like a double-edged sword. It pierces to soul and spirit.
This is the freeing nature of really buying into a God that is fully sovereign.
Yes.
Because your children's future is not going to be determined by your good parenting or your bad parenting.
Exactly.
Your children's future is determined before they are even conceived, before they're ever born. All of man's ways are known.
You're part of the
Solomon
process.
Says, you're just a part of the process. And so when you look back and you're like, man, I can't believe I screamed at my kid. I shouldn't have done that. Father, forgive me for doing that. I'm going to try not to do that again. That's confession. That's repentance of sin and anger. Absolutely. But God still used that, and he's using that to shape your kid. Mm-hmm. And when you look back, you're like, man, I really nailed my day off. I was involved with the kids, and I don't well up with pride. Don't beat yourself. Don't well up with pride. I didn't come up with this. I heard somebody say this, before, and it wasn't these exact words, but I have people that come up to me as a pastor of a church, and they've got opinions, and some people they have very strong opinions about things that I preach, and they think they're absolutely terrible, and people have shared it, and I've got the emails to prove it, and then I got other people that think it's amazing and that no one could preach it better. And neither one of those are true. Neither one of those are true. It's never, you're never terrible as a parent. You're never awful. You have moments, and you're never awesome. It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And God is leading your parenting. God is leading your child. the friends that your child has, God has an awareness of that. He's allowing it. He's creating their story. He's creating their story.
Yeah.
I look at Henry. Henry's got a giant scar on his chest from, getting a tumor removed at a year old. And we haven't gotten into it yet because he's only 7.5, but he's aware of it now and he notices it. And we just told him he had surgery, but he has no idea what his testimony is. And from the moment he came out, God started building his testimony.
Yeah.
And we have confidence that the Lord will give Henry faith. We pray for him every night, and we asked God in front of Henry. And I've said this before, but God, give Henry faith to trust in you. We want Henry to know where his faith comes from. That Henry didn't earn it. He didn't own it. Romans 9 was very controversial for many in the church, and I'm still meeting with people over it, and there's still people that are upset, and certainly, never want that. And I did it with Romans 13, because Romans 9 and Romans 13 are the difficult, chapters in Romans. And in Romans 13, it's that first verse that throws people off. Let every person be subject to governing authorities. And I did this on Sunday. I said, what does that mean? That means let every person be subject to governing authorities. It's exactly what it says.
Yeah.
For there is no authority except from God. What does that mean? That means there is no authority except from God.
Exactly what it means.
Pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah.
And those that exist have been instituted by God. What does that mean? It means that those that exist have been instituted by God. And for those that are parents and they are so concerned and losing sleep at times over the salvation of their children, I would bring them to Romans chapter 9, and what it says in this is that it does not depend on will or human exertion. Salvation does not depend on human will or exertion. What does that mean? It does not depend.
Not up to us.
Doesn't depend on human will or exertion. It can't mean the opposite. And so for those that are parents that put this pressure on themselves to the point of paranoia or fear, God never corrects sin with sin. Your fear is unfounded. We need to trust, and it really goes back. I was talking to somebody last week in about election, and are we okay with God's decisions? Not just for salvation. What about for your kids? Because I believe that God decides.
Yeah.
Are you going to be okay? Rachel and I, when Henry got diagnosed with that tumor, and we didn't, by God's grace, we didn't have to get there. And at this point, Henry's doing well. And so, but I started to think, am I going to be okay if God decides to take my son? Because not that it's going to be easy. It's going to be difficult, but am I going to be okay with it? And there is something very unique about the love. And for those that don't have children, this is not meant to offend you in any way, shape, or form, or to share or say or state that you don't understand God's love. I don't believe that to be true. I believe you understand it as much as any parent. But there is something unique that I have found in my experience about my love for Henry that is different than the love I have for my wife. And the thought of Henry separated from God for eternity and not understanding the sweetness of Christ and the stability of Christ is something that can cause, even amongst the most seasoned Christian, of which I'm not calling myself, but for Pete's sakes, I should be somewhat seasoned at this point in my life. It's tough. It's hard to think about, man. It's hard to think about. And so understand that God's in control. God has a plan. You're part of that plan. Don't beat yourself up. Do your best. Don't freak out. Do what you can. Any other thoughts, you geniuses?
The only other thing that I was thinking of, there's a really good book that my wife and I read together called Mama Bear Apologetics. If you're interested in reading, they also have a book that's Mama Bear Apologetics Guide to Sexuality. I haven't fully read that one yet, so I can't give it like a full seal of approval, yeah. But the original book is really good. And it does talk about some of this stuff, at least on the surface, but a lot of it is about a lot of it is about grounding yourself in truth. And that's a lot of what we talked about, living out your faith and sharing that with your kids in a meaningful way, doing what the scriptures say. And it's like you said, ultimately it's not up to us. But one of the things that is talked about in the book is the word tolerance, because you mentioned that earlier, Chad, and the world uses the word tolerance not the way that it actually, for what it actually means, and it's basically affirmation, that if you are not affirming me, then you are against me.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have tolerance for things, and you can love people in a way where you are not affirming them. That's a hard line to walk.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point.
But there's a lot of stuff like that in that book. That's just one of the things. Was how linguistic theft is the term that they use, where the world likes to take words that have a meaning and change them to mean something else, so that suddenly, if you are following God's word, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's the difference between telling somebody go ahead and then telling somebody do it. And what I mean by that is, like, somebody goes to do something, you're like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, it
Does not mean the same thing.
does not mean the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then telling somebody do it, directing them to it. Yeah. And affirming is very good.
Yeah. I said a lot of what I said with such confidence because in spite of going to Christian school for a little bit, in spite of not having a perfect model of a fruitful Christian family in front of me growing up, in spite of not following Jesus until I was about 19 years old, really, even though I was around the church and around Christian school and public school, the whole spectrum of it all, I had no clue I was going to follow Jesus until I was an adult. I had no desire to be a youth pastor my entire life until I was in my 20s. I would have never foreseen any of that for myself.
Yeah.
And there wasn't some perfect formula that got me there. That was all God showing me his original meaning for who I am. And him revealing who he created me to be. And it's still the process in which I'm living now.
Yeah.
I got back into the church at age 30.
Exactly. Your story as well. That's what I want to kind of go off of the testimony you're talking about with Henry.
Yeah.
I'm confident in what I'm saying because of my testimony.
You lived it.
I lived it.
Yeah.
And there was no perfect parenting that got me to this.
Oh, good gravy.
You know what I mean?
No.
And on top of that, the second thing I'll end with is it wasn't a home run with students I've had in ministry because I know how to explain it better.
Yeah.
Or I did it better. I actually presented scripture.
That's right.
I had parents come to me with this fear. Well, my kid's going to go woke. My kid's thinking about identifying as an animal. What do I do? Well, what did you do? Well, I yelled at him. Well, first of all, did you tell them, hey, I was the one who gave birth to you and you weren't a cat. You were a female human being. No, that's a good start. You were the one there that gave birth to the child. And secondly, did you show them in scripture the original meaning that God has for them as a female human being? No. That's all I did.
Yeah.
I told them, your mom was there when she gave birth to you. You were not a cat. Secondly, here's what God's design is for you. Here's his original meaning. And it makes perfect sense. And it's always been there for us. It's a path that's always been before us. All you got to do is go that way. Literally every time it's happened, the kid has come back and been all for what God has for them, not this pursuing of an alternate identity. Not because I explained it better, but because there was scripture and logic.
Heard this quote last week. I don't watch, and I've shared, I don't read, Christian books. I don't watch other pastors preach because I think that they don't have anything. I'm very influenced. I'm usually influenced, and I want to be able to dig through the text and see what the Spirit is saying, to me for our church. And I know I would accidentally steal something or steal something on purpose. And so it's not, I think I'm better than. But Rachel and I were watching this interview with John MacArthur, who I think is like 80, 84 maybe now. And we were watching this interview with him, and we watched it because Rachel's dad had watched it. And Rachel's dad comes to church on a regular basis. And we continue to, try to encourage him in his journey, and we'll say faith journey. And so we watched this interview, and plus I, enjoy a lot of what MacArthur does. I think he's brilliant as far as helping explain and word studies and all this type of stuff. And he was talking to this guy and talking about the Bible. And he said, the Bible can defend itself.
Yes.
He said, the Bible is like a lion. He goes, nobody lets a lion out of the cage and thinks they need to help.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, so good. It's so good. And that's exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Parents, bring your children the Bible.
Yeah.
It's good enough.
Yep.
It's good enough. It defends.
It's a lion.
It's a lion.
It's a lion.
It gave me chills when he said it.
Leave it in the room with them.
Yeah, right. He says, let the lion out of the cage. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think was more,
Which is so true.
It is.
When I was about 19 and I actually picked up the Bible and started getting into it, man, I didn't want to do any more college homework. I just wanted to be in the Word. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I've been missing out on this for 19 years.
No, you weren't. You weren't missing out. God had a plan.
Yeah.
19-year-old Chad gets to meet the lion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Not everybody's plan is the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very, very different. I remember, it was years ago. I was still leading worship here. I might have been part-time. I just started. And this lady who was like 90, like 89 or 90, was like, do you guys have Bibles here? And I'm like, well, we do. She goes, can I have one? I've never owned a Bible. And as I handed a Bible to this 90-year-old lady, and she wound up getting baptized like a couple months later. Pastor Tim, who was here, who was the lead pastor, baptized her at 90.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you never know what the Lord's going to do.
Yeah.
So just trust in the process, trust in his process and his plan, and trust that you're a part of his process and do your best. But don't get hyped. It's just like politics. We vote, but God decides. We teach our children, we share the gospel, but God decides, and understand that, the possibility for tension is there, but just stay the course. God can do amazing things. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't got anything else. How you doing? How was it?
It was good.
I'd invite you back next week, but you got VBS.
I do have VBS.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's going to be a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on I didn't say this earlier, but it is in the evenings. It's from 6 to 8:30. So again, just one last plug. If you're interested, go to the website, go to hopechristianchurch.com on the events page, get your kids signed up there, get yourself signed up there. If you want to volunteer, it's going to be awesome. Well, it's going to be crazy.
If we can chip in $5, we can get them on the podcast.
Oh, that's right. $2.50 a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do whatever we want.
In many ways.
Yeah, nobody's the sale is not final
though,
yet.
Why would I pay $5 for something I already own? No, I'm just kidding.
Oof.
Interesting.
Oh man.
Hot take.
That was just a joke.
Hot take.
Just a joke. Chad didn't
He's blushing. I'm just feeling for my friend over here.
Chad's like, really? Run your own VBS, dummy. I could not do what you do, Zach or Chad. Like, you guys are incredible at your jobs, and I would also encourage everyone to go to VBS. VBS was absolutely pivotal for me as a kid. It was so much fun, but it was focused fun, and that's the thing. Zach and Cheryl do an amazing job of not just creating the sets in the field and choosing curriculum, but the passion that they have for kids is evident, and you can't buy that. You can't pay for that. So thank you, and certainly Cheryl, for all your hard work. I'm looking forward to this week for you guys. It's always an amazing time, and yeah, I would certainly encourage you to get your kids signed up and
ready to dive in.
Yeah, dive in.
One last question, and then we'll call it a day. What is your favorite part about VBS? What would you say?
Oh man. I had this superhero question like in the chamber.
Yeah.
My favorite part about VBS.
It can also be Spider-Man. can be your answer.
Next year is going to be Marvel VBS.
Marvel.
No, there's you know what's funny is I'm sure that there are people that do that.
Neal would love to be the Hulk.
I can't be the Hulk anymore. It hurts.
No, but I would
lift weights
say
anymore.
Love Bible.
and it's always been this way. That I think my favorite part about VBS is the music.
It is the music.
Yeah, we do it. We've been doing it for weeks back in the East Wing on Sunday mornings, and we share that with the kids on purpose so that when they get there, it's not like, oh, look, this is all brand new and they don't know what's going on. We want to acquaint them with that. We want them to be like, oh yeah, like it's fun to sing along with songs that you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And just being able to do that and watching all of the kids do it, because it's one of my favorite things about my job is leading worship on Sunday morning with the kids and just watching them all.
The enthusiasm.
They're so, and it's contagious, and they're so, especially when you get like the 5 and 6 year olds, they get real amped up about certain ones, especially call and response, anything where they're like yelling, they get way into it.
It gets loud.
But like watching all of these kids just sing and follow in love and obedience, and that they are worshiping God because and that they're brought there, like their parents, their grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends, they're bringing them there. They're following what God has told them to do.
Yeah.
And seeing that and seeing them come and worship, it's like, oh, it's great.
I used to MC VBS here when I was a worship leader, and we did VBS. And I would go through the entire week of emceeing and just seeing the enthusiasm of the kids. And then I'd lead worship that Sunday morning for our adults.
Oh, man.
And I was like, this is wildly
It's so boring.
It was crazy.
It's hard to go back to worshiping with adults after worshiping with kids. I'm like, none of you are doing motions.
Well, it wasn't just that. It was just like, people were just sipping their coffee, and you could kind of just tell, from the room that people didn't want to be there. And I actually addressed it because I can't let anything go, which is terrible. But I'm like, hey, you guys mind if I mention this? And I just shared with the church, like, I don't expect us to be screaming and yelling. All of us are going to tear a meniscus if we do twists. And I've said this before, when I'm in worship, a lot of times I don't even sing. I just like to listen. It wasn't about it was about the feel of the room, not the posture of the people.
Yeah.
And the feel of the room was just different. I thought about this, and this is stupid.
So let's share it.
So I'm going to share it. Well, you said your theme's going to be Avenger, and I saw this on Sunday. We were talking about politics and governing authorities. Then do what is good, and you will not receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is the servant of God, an avenger.
Ooh.
Who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer.
Yeah.
So my first Avenger was some type of...
It wasn't Captain America.
Certainly was not Captain America. How was Father's Day? Did you guys do anything for Father's Day?
We chilled.
Chilled?
I mean, it's a Sunday. People were asking me on Sunday. They were like, what are you doing for Father's Day? I was like, I'm here.
Recovering.
That's what,
But
we went to my in-laws' house and we spent some time with them. Marissa's brothers came over and
that's
we
not
went
chilling.
we went swimming.
I mean, it's chilling, but
yeah it was low key.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does anybody get you? Are you and Marissa like Mother's Day, Father's Day?
Oh man,
Did you get anything?
I kind of wish I had been. I almost wore it today. She got me her and the kids got me a T-shirt, and it's got Bandit on it. If you don't know who Bandit is, if you have young children, you know who Bandit is.
He works for Larry the Cucumber.
the dad from Bluey the cartoon.
Hey, doing this Bandit.
It's got but Bandit's on there. And it says Rad Dad. I had a Rad Dad T-shirt that she got me for my first Father's Day, and but she's like, I just wanted to look for something that had Bluey on it, and it was that. She also got me a camping fan. You can hang in your tent. Yeah.
You camp?
Occasionally.
Okay.
Well, we do the stuff with Trail Life. I'm accumulating gear.
Yeah.
Because
that makes sense.
Before we know it, 2 more years, 3 more years, I think technically, Peter's going to be able to join Trail Life, and Maddie gets to join AHG this year.
Oh, nice.
And also, unrelated,
American Heritage Girls.
Oh, thank you. American Heritage Girls, yes. But we're in the ultrasound room, and they tell us if it's a boy or a girl, and she's like, well, it's a boy. And we were like, feel in the moment, and I lean over to Marissa, and I'm like, that's another trailman.
Yeah.
And I told that to the Trail Life Committee when we had our meeting on Thursday, and they all got a big kick out of it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's good.
Bandit's a good name.
for a child, for a human child.
Bandit Melcher.
You're getting a glimpse into what happened with Montgomery right now.
I thought we had agreed on Shadrach, but
Shadrach.
I thought Shadrach. Marshall.
Shadrach
It's not
Mezak.
going to be Chad, maybe Chadrach.
Shadrach.
He keeps pushing his own name
Yeah.
as a joke. It keeps happening though.
Yeah. No, it's not a joke.
You can name your child Chad, a very common name, or you could go. You go with Neal, a little more eccentric, a little more.
Yeah.
I mean, how many
I don't
Neals?
call
do you
either
know?
of those common.
I know a dozen Chads.
You know it does. Name
I don't.
all 12 Chads that you know.
Chad
don't.
Smith.
You don't
Chad
actually
Jones.
name all the Chads.
Right. What'd you do for Father's Day? Anything?
Yeah, we went to Edgewater Beach for,
Nice.
for a nice evening on the beach and
They have
brought
new
a beach
playground
ball. No, they don't have a playground there.
there? I'm thinking of a different place.
Yeah, they've got huge fields. They actually put soccer goals in there,
nice.
so there's a huge soccer game going on.
Yeah.
My son got a big kick out of that. Pun intended.
There it
Yeah,
is.
there we go.
There it is.
So we had a beach ball, so he wanted to play soccer. So
Yeah.
he was just elated that both mom and dad were playing soccer with him, or like keep the ball away from him.
Oh,
Yeah. It's amazing how much children enjoy when we engage with them.
Yeah.
And both of us, together.
Same thing with Henry. He's like, you and mommy are gonna play
Yeah.
together, and
He's
I'm
like,
like,
we're a team.
pickle in the
It
middle.
was so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get it? Excuse me. Anything? Will Ledger can't probably produce any craft for you at this point because he's
That's right.
Cannot produce a craft.
He's got
for
a
you.
little tiny table in our living room for himself to color on, eat breakfast at, and stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, after we got back from the beach, there was a big blue construction paper card that said Happy Father's Day on it that nobody ever presented me.
Oh, okay.
and
So
and
you
my wife's
found it.
handwriting said
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day on the front. And she's
Yeah.
like, well, it's because he did like one scribble and got tired of it. And
Peter's
Yeah.
the same way. He doesn't like drawing.
So-
Maddie made me a card.
Yeah.
Her cards are always interesting. They don't fold like cards. It's like a trifold brochure.
yeah.
Oh,
She
okay.
always does it that way.
Yeah.
And I open it and it's a Happy Father's Day. And she's like, I don't know if you could tell that's what it says because I colored on the F a little
Yeah.
bit. And I was like, that's okay.
If you'd like to buy a timeshare,
That's right. That's it.
here's my presentation on why to get ice cream.
Yeah, basically.
That's solid stuff.
Oh,
Yes.
wild stuff.
Yeah, it was fun.
Good. Well, thank you,
Oh, a true
gentlemen.
fan of the podcast.
Yeah.
What's that?
Wild stuff.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah. Long time listener.
Long time listener.
Second time guest.
Is it second or third?
I think it might be third.
I think it's
I
third.
think it's third.
Third
Yeah.
time's a charm.
Oh, there you
I
go.
thought you did fine the other two times, but you guys should fight.
Again, and here it is
I've
again.
been working out for this.
I haven't been, so this is going to go very
Ready to
poorly for me.
scrap.
Yeah, it's good. Well, thank you, Pastor Chad. Thank you, Pastor Zach, for your insight and your wisdom today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to submit a question to the podcast, you can email podcast@hopechristianchurch.com, or you can text your question to 440-HOPE-222. We may or may not convene next week with it being VBS. I'm not sure yet. We'll kind of see what's going on. But if not, then we'll be back the week after that. But submit those questions, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, guys.
Amen.
Bye.
Bye.